YouTube, I'm back again today for another game review. And today I'm very excited to check out Manaforge from Mystic Tiger Games. This is for 2 to 4 players. Age is 14 plus, will take about 60 to 90 minutes to play. And in Manaforge, you are going to be running a Manaforge. You're going to be rolling these nice custom dice, and you're going to be purchasing items for your workshop in order to tap those items to get you more mana so you can get more cards and you can get victory points. It is an engine building game where everyone's going to have their own unique asymmetrical engine that they are building by purchasing cards and even drafting special abilities at the beginning of the game. It's surprisingly simple, though, for what you're going to be doing. Is it good, though? Let's open it up. I'll tell you what I think. I do want to mention the middle part is a little bit longer than I like it to be, about 10 or 11 minutes, but I tried to give you a pretty decent explanation of how the game works. But let's open it up. Alrighty then, we're going to take a look at what you're going to get inside of Manaforge. So first and foremost, we're going to handy dandy rule booklet. It is 10 pages, double-sided, full color. It's got pictures, illustrations, examples, and honestly, you're only going to need the first 6 pages of the rule booklet. And the game itself is a pretty straightforward, easy game that can give you a good feel for how to play. Now, that being said, the rule booklet had 2 big things which really actually screwed up our first game a little bit. It wasn't a deal breaker, but it was slightly annoying. So the first thing is, I'm going to show it to you right now, one big discrepancy. So this is the back. This is the back of the rule booklet. I love this symbols guide when game companies do this, but here, let's take a look at this one right here. Select one available mana gem. You gain another mana gem of the same element. That makes it sound like you get 2 mana gems. Just, you have no context to the game, but you're saying, yeah, that sounds like I get 2 mana gems, right? This one, but here on the player aid card, it says, gain a mana gem of the same element as a mana gem you already own. So that makes it sound like you only get 1 mana gem. That is a huge difference. I was going off of this because I had it right in front of me since I was learning the rules, and they were going off of this, and I actually did this for like 3/4 of the game. So that is a big discrepancy. Also, the rule booklet makes it sound like once you spend these particular tokens, it says they go back into the box, when in actuality, there is an infinite amount of these. So we weren't like, is there a finite amount? Is there an infinite amount? I'm not quite sure what's going on. We eventually figured out that there is an infinite amount, so when they say put it back in the box, they actually mean put it back in the supply. It's kind of weird, kind of wonky, but other than that, the rule booklet is well done. So in Manaforge, what you're going to try and do is you're going to try and get the most victory points by crafting different workshop items and store items with your special abilities you're going to draft at the beginning of the game by rolling these really nice custom dice. So let's go over the components. Let's get into the gameplay. So first component-wise, everybody's going to have the board, which is in front of them. It's going to have spots for you to put 4 workshop items, which I'll show you a little bit later. Store items, talents over here. It's a very useful player aid board. It has a spot for everything you're going to need, so big thumbs up on that player aid board. Also, everybody's going to get a player reference card, which is packed to the brim with stuff, but it's incredibly useful. So huge thumbs up on this. And honestly, when you're when you're playing the second, third, fourth game, so on and so forth, this will teach you most of what you need to remember, which is always a nice thing. Next, you're going to have these nice custom D6 dice. There's 5 different kinds of dice: earth, wind, water, fire, and then mana, which are going to be the pink ones, which are kind of like wild dice a little bit. They're going to give you lots of options. Next, you're going to have talents. And we'll just start up the game. I'll show you how the game works. So at the beginning of the game, each player is going to get 4 of these talents. You are going to do a typical draft. So you're going to pick 1, and then you're going to pass 3 to the left. Then you'll have 3 to pick from. So you'll pick 1, and then you'll pass 2 to the left. And then you'll pick 1, and then you'll pass the last one to the left, and you should have 4 talent cards in front of you. These talent cards are going to give you, and only you, symmetrical or asymmetrical abilities. So for instance, this one, whenever you build a fire item, gain a fire gem. So that's going to let you get a little bit more fire every time you build a fire item. You may flip one of your water dice onto its water gem side. So this one's always going to make it so that as long as you have a blue die, you're guaranteed to get at least 1 water. This one, you may flip one of your fire dice into the fire gem side. And you'll notice that while there is a lot of different cards in here, a lot of them repeat themselves because they just change the word water to fire or earth or something like that, which I guess is a necessary evil, but still. At any time, you may look at the top 6 cards of the item deck, so you're going to have an idea of what's going to happen. But you're going to have 4 new cards. You're going to pick 2 of these talents, and you're going to place them right in front of you. So you know what? I'll just go hard on the fire this game, so I will do that. I'll put the 2 fire ones right down there. My talents, we'll talk about our talents for a second. Now you're going to gather your dice. Everyone is going to start with the 4 original element dice, and then you're also going to get an extra dice for whichever is on the bottom right hand corner of your cards. So for this instance, I would actually start the game with 6 dice, 3 of them being fire. And now we are ready to start playing the game. So what you're going to do on a round, it's pretty simple. The first player is going to get the first player token, which is this nice little anvil right here, which actually looks kind of cool. You'll put it in front of yourself, and then we can actually just go to the player reference card because it does such a good job of teaching you everything you need to know. I almost forgot, everyone's going to start with mana prisms as well, depending on where you're sitting at the table. These are kind of just like wilds. So now, deal 6 cards from the item deck. And this is going to be the item deck. At the beginning of the game, you are going to set up the item deck, and you're going to have 18 cards, 18 dawn cards, 18 noon cards, and then 18 dusk cards. This is also going to help you keep track of when the game is over, because when you run out of cards, boom, game is over. And yes, there is more than 54 cards right here, because you're actually going to be taking some out. So you are not going to have a stagnant deck each game. You're going to be taking some out. I did not for this particular example, but you'll get a feel for it. So the first player is going to set out 6 of these cards like so, and then we'll take a look at these cards. So the cards are going to look like this. They will have a cost in the upper left-hand corner. That's how much mana you have to spend to purchase the card. They will also tell you on the card whether or not it is a workshop card or whether or not it is a store card. So let's take a look at these 2 cards right here. This one's a store card. This one's a workshop card. This one's going to cost you 2 of that dice and then 2 of anything. That means anything you want to do. This one's going to cost you 2 water, 1 of those, and 1 of those. But this card, you'll notice, looks a little bit different. That's because this game, one of the unique aspects of this game is that you can level up your card. So to start, when you purchase this card, it's going to go down in your workshop area, and it is always going to have the ability, once per round, to tap it and then get you a blue mana, a blue water mana. And how this works is the circles are things that you have to spend this turn. You cannot save them. Whereas this shape right here, I think that's hexagon maybe, is something means you're going to gain these tokens. So what's the difference between this water and that water right here? This is a water that you have to spend this turn or else you lose it. This is a water that you can save from turn to turn to turn and use it when you want to. So this is petrified elements, whereas this is just the raw elements. But if I were to place this water right on here, then I would now unlock this special ability right here, which means I could now tap this card to get a water, or I could tap it to get the brown, or I could tap it to get the wind. And then if I put a brown one right there, then that means that I could now tap it to get 2 water, or I could tap it to get 1 water, which you never do, or I could tap it to get this and get that. So as you level up the card, it's going to give you more choices on what you will be able to do with your cards. And you're going to be able to have 4 of these workshop items down here. So you can really kind of craft it. Now the store items generally are going to be one-time use special abilities or persistent abilities that will give you points. So this is, for instance, is a wand, and it's going to give you 1 prestige point, which is a victory point, plus 1 for each other card in your store with wand in its name. And you guessed it, as you go through the dawn and then the noon and the dusk phase, those wands are going to give you more victory points. So if you go for that strategy, you're going to get more and more victory points each time you get a wand, but at the cost of losing, those persistent, ways you're going to be able to gain mana. So let's go ahead and we got it all set up. Let's roll our dice. We put a ready dice right over here, and let's take a look at some of the dice and some of the different faces on them. So obviously, this just means you're going to get 2 fire. Likewise, you'll get water or 2 water. You'll have a choice between water, fire, or wind. Some of them will even give you petrified elements. So this one would give you a petrified rock or a petrified fire. Some of them also have special abilities. Each of the dice is going to have a special ability on it. And these are the really interesting aspects of the die. So this one's going to allow you to select 1 available mana gem. You gain another mana gem of the same element. So if I had a petrified water down here, I could gain another petrified water. Recharge any 1 item card in your workshop. So that means that if I had, say, this card right here and I tapped it to get something, then I could spend that dice to untap it. You could choose you can gain 1 earth and 1 wind mana, or 1 fire and 1 water mana. So that's going to open up your options. And then we already talked about that one right there. Also, there is the mana die, which, as I mentioned, is going to give you a lot of choices most of the time. So this one, you can get a fire or you can get a wind. You can get a fire or a rock. You can get a wind or a rock. It's going to give you generally 2 choices. It's going to open up your option. But let's talk about what's going to happen now that we've rolled the dice. So now we actually get onto the player turns, and everyone is going to take their entire turn, and then it will move to the next person, then the next person, and the next turn. Because turn order is really going to matter, because especially in a 4-player game, once someone has purchased this card, another card is not coming out to replace it. So if you're the 4th person on your turn, most of the time you're only going to have 3 cards to look at. So let's talk about the different actions you can take on your turn. So first, you can spend a die and gain the benefits of one of the things on your die. So I could take these 4, and I could gain whatever is on those dice. You can only do that with 4 of your dice. Next, you can build an item or prism, which is this, and you can do this in any order you want. So you could buy something and then spend your dice, or spend some and then buy your dice and then activate this. It's a very open and free form turn. But then you can pay the cost either with the dice or with these in order to gain cards. You can activate an item, so you'll have items that you'll be able to do, so the workshop items, and you can purchase a workshop item and then immediately upgrade that workshop item and then immediately use that workshop to get what you want. So, like I said, the turns are going to allow you to do pretty much everything you want to do, except for you cannot spend more than 4 dice to gain what is on that face. But that's an easy workaround, because you can easily just say, all right, I'm going to spend these as mana to get a card, and then you could just gain whatever is on these 4 dice. You can activate your talents. As I mentioned, you'll have talents over here. Some of them you will need to tap, and you'll just tap them because you'll only be able to use them once per turn. Anywho, once you've done everything you wanted to do, you're going to move on to the next player, who will then spend his dice, moving them from here over to here. They'll be buying cards, they'll be gaining victory points, they'll be tapping workshop items, doing all sorts of different things until everyone has gotten their turn. Once everyone has gotten their turn, all the cards that are left up here are going to go into the discard pile. You'll pass this over to there, you'll untap your cards, and you will rinse, wash, and repeat. You're going to do that over and over and over again, 9 times collecting cards, at which point whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game will be the winner of the game. Only thing I forgot to mention as one of the actions is that if you don't buy a card, you can gain one of these wild prisms. You pretty much never want to do it, because most of the time these cards are going to be better for you, because they will have victory points on them. So a lot of them will have victory points that you'll be trying to gain, especially towards the mid and later part of the game. But that, in a nutshell, is what you're going to do inside of Manaforge. Alrighty then, Manaforge from Mystic Tiger Games. What are my final thoughts? Let's go over the pros, let's go over the cons. First, on the con side, 2 to 4 players, restricted player count. I have got a chance to play it at each of the player counts, and I will say I liked it best at 3 and 4. They're just, I don't know. With 3 and 4, it becomes a little bit tighter of a game, I thought. At 2 players, I thought it's good. I still think it's a good game at 2. I liked it at all the different player counts, but I liked it best at 3 and 4 players. Another con that I have with this game is that the rules had those 2 big bugaboos in it. The first one makes it sound like there is a finite amount of gems, when in actuality, there is not a finite amount of gems, because they say, oh, once you spend these, put them back in the box. And it's like, oh my gosh, are we supposed to have a finite amount of these? But it's like, no, there's an infinite amount of these gems. So instead of just putting them in the box, how about you just put them back in the supply? I don't know. It's really weird wording. The other big one, and this one is obviously a big screw up, is the different wordage on the symbols guide and the player aid card. These 2 need to be the same, and they're not on the gem copy ability. Because I was going off the rule booklet, whereas everyone else was going off the player aid card, and so I thought I could get 2 of any gem I wanted, when in actuality it is 1 of any gem that you already have. And that's a big difference, getting 2 gems versus 1 gem that you already have. So yeah, we screwed that up, and that is all on them, because they completely messed up the back of the rule book, which I'm pretty sure they meant to put what's on the player reference card. Any other cons I have of the game? Oh, another big con that I have of this game is that I think it's a good to great game. I think most people are going to enjoy this game for what it is. I enjoyed it each of the 3 times that I've got a chance to play it, but I want a little bit more out of this game. This is the kind of game that with a good expansion could bump it up to great. And the biggest reason I think for that is that while there are a lot of different special abilities and different powers, and you're drafting your own talents at the beginning, and you're drafting your own workshop items, and you're going to have different store items, and you're each going to have your own asymmetrical thing that's churning along, which I really do enjoy. a lot of it feels very samey. Like, you got this huge stack of different cards that are store items and workshop items, but, you know, like a good chunk of those are just going to be wands that don't do anything. It's just victory points, and you'll have 4 of them at the beginning, 4 of them in the middle, and 4 of them at the end. You might even have more of that. I haven't actually counted all of them. And then you look at the talents, you're like, oh, look at all these different talents we're going to draft from. And it's like, oh, this is the Pyromancer, but you're like, oh, this does the exact same thing, but mine is water. Oh, I have the exact same card, but mine is earth. Oh, I have the exact same card, but mine is wind. And I understand they had to do that to keep the balance of the game in place, but still, I would have liked to have seen them take a little bit more risks with both the item cards and the workshop cards, and also the talent cards. Just a little bit more variety, which is why I'm saying I think an expansion could bump this from a good game to a great game. Another comment of this game is that I feel like wands are not balanced. And this one was one that I might not have noticed had I not gone hard for wands. So one of the games, I went hard on wands. 7 of the 9 turns, I got a wand. Let me rephrase that. 7 of the 9 turns in this game, including, I think, 3 of the last ones where you get a lot of points for the wands, I got wands, which were just straight victory points. Like, that's the victory point mechanism. Like, if you get this wand, you get 1 point plus X number of points is how many wands you have. So, in most games, if everyone else is going to let me get 7 out of 9 times, I get the victory pointer, I should crush. And I did not crush. I actually finished in, I think, a tie for second, if I recall correctly. So I worry about the wands not being balanced. Because if I can get 7 out of 9 of those, and still have, you know, somewhat of a good engine chugging with the 2 other cards that I have, I should win the game, and I did not win that game. And it was, I think I was down by like 5 or 10 points. So I worry about the value of the wands. And if you're looking for a pro tip, personally, ignore the wands. They sound really sexy, but they just did not get you enough points, in my personal opinion. And another person also went for the wand strategy as well. They did not win the game, but I think they only had like 5 or 6 of them. I had freaking 7. 7 out of 9. That should win me the game. Any other cons that I have with the game? The theme, non-existent. I mean, it's like, oh, we're in a Manaforge, we have items, and we're getting this. But really, it is just kind of like, I'm doing this to do this, and I'm doing this to do this, and I'm doing this to do this, and I'm doing this to do this. And some people can have lengthier turns than other people, especially if you have analysis paralysis. This game, it can be a little bit prone to AP. But, moving on to the pros, Manaforge is a good to great game. And I think most people are going to enjoy this game for what it is. It's a lot more simple than what it sounds like. And one thing that I really like, so I knocked on the rule booklet about those 2 big scopes. One thing I really like about the rule booklet is the fact that they clearly, and this just looks like giant walls of text to you, but this is them going through common questions with the game, and then what every single card in the game does. Yes, yes, yes! This is what more game companies need to do. Oh, I have a question about the card. Look, I can go to the dust cards and find card 59 very clearly. And it doesn't just, this really drives me nuts. When they put something like this and then they just put the exact text from the card into the rule booklet, that's not useful. What they did is they give you a description of what the card does. A clear and concise description. So yes, big ups on them for including that in the rule booklet. I wish more companies would do that. Also, component-wise, components are perfectly serviceable. The arts, you know, art is something that's very relative. I think the art's pretty good, and it's consistent across most of the cards. It's not like, oh man, this card looks completely different from this card. So that's nice. Component-wise, I like the components. The dice are very nice. The D6 dice, they're custom engraved ones. They're very well done. Easy to learn. Easy to teach. You know, aside from the 2 mess-ups that I had based on what was in the rule booklet, it's an easy game to learn. It's an easy game to teach. It's one of those games that, despite the fact I'd say it's about medium weight, once you get it out again, say 6 months later or something like that, once you get a brush through the rules, you should be able to teach this one relatively simple. Because sometimes when you get games out like this, the 60 to 90 minute range, you have to completely reread the rules. Luckily, the player aid cards are so well done that you don't have to do that. And the gameplay is very straightforward. Now, one more con that I have with this game is that it can get repetitive. I forgot to mention that. You're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again 9 times. It didn't bug me that much, though, because there was so much different stuff to look at. You're looking at your items. You're looking at how you're going to make stuff with your workshop and with your dice to get to your items, and I like that as well. No real player interaction in this game. Also, aside from, you know, taking cards that other people might want if you're going before them. That's what I got, though. I like Manaforge. I think it's a good game. to a great game? Am I going to be keeping it? Normally, I would say yes, but I actually played with somebody who really enjoyed it. They were on the great tier. They thought this was a great game. They're starting their game collection, so I'm actually going to let him have it, and then, hopefully if they come out with an expansion in the future, then he'll let me borrow it again so I can review that expansion, because I would definitely like to see an expansion for this game, because I did enjoy it. I would play it again. I wish the player count was a little bit higher. I wish there was a little bit more player interaction, and I wish that there was a wider variety of store and item cards and special talents. But in the end, I think it's a good to great game. It is one that I can recommend if you're in the market for a medium weight game that still is relatively simple and easy to learn and easy to teach. So that is Manaforge from Mystic Tiger Games. If you enjoyed this review, please sure to click on that subscribe button down below in the comments below. Let me know, what's your favorite medium weight game? Ooh, man, that is a toughie, because I love that medium weight range. I love heavy stuff, don't get me wrong. I love, love, love heavy, but I'm going to go with, I love Orleans, I love Kingsburg, I love Aeon's End. Oh, man, I would say medium weight game. That's my jam right there. So I'm going to go with those three off the top of my head. But let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite medium weight game? And as always, thanks for your time, YouTube.